Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Words for Life, the podcast where we look for quotes, ideas, phrases, and people to help motivate and inspire us. Today, we have the wonderful opportunity to interview Jen Cassetta. Jen, thank you very much for taking the time to be interviewed.
Thanks so much for having me, Stephen. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I've been excited. I've been looking forward to interviewing you for a while. For those of you who might not be familiar with Jen, she is really a sought after keynote speaker for global brands who trust her to motivate and inspire their teams to become black belt leaders through wellness and leadership program. She uses her background as a third degree black belt, health coach, and high performance coach to create engaging and empowering programs that audiences break through barriers and sometimes even boards. If you've ever seen some of her keynotes, they're pretty impressive. I've seen little clips of them here and there. I like to see them. Her experiential and transformative programs have been hosted by Apple, American Airlines, American Express, Nike, and Visa. Jen has rocked hundreds of stages with her knockout combination of engaging content, contagious enthusiasm, and she's been featured even on Good Morning America, The Today Show, The Doctors, and the TEDx stage, barefoot, I might add. Her book, The Art of Badassery, Unleash your mojo with the wisdom of the dojo, published in 2022, and her podcast with the same name, is a favorite among corporate women in all industries who are ready to level up their resilience and go after the life of their dreams.
Yeah.
That is quite the introduction and background, Jen. How did you get started with all this, the speaking, the coaching, the empowering women to really go get it? What got you started?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I wish I had a better answer. Like, I wish I had this plan of action, 20 years ago. But that's not how it happened at all. It actually just happened circumstantially and just little by little and little. I kind of got the fever for for this work, but it all started with one martial arts class back in 2000. So we're talking 24 years ago, where I walked into a dojo in New York City and fell madly in love with this practice, this martial arts called Hapkido, a Korean style of martial arts. The rest is history. I mean, there's tons of obviously iterations of how this became my career, but essentially the kind of, if I, when I look back, the turning point where, kind of the origin of this whole long story and long career was September 11th. So it was about a year after I started training in martial arts and found myself going to work. I was going to become an event planner. And on that day, on that morning, I showed up to work 3 blocks south of the World Trade Center. It's I've told it in long and short versions, but the short version is this. I showed up to the building, I wasn't allowed upstairs. Seconds later, the first tower fell. I was luckily inside the lobby by that time. And I was thrown into this utility closet with a bunch of strangers. I'm completely shut down and my body froze out of extreme fear. And back then I didn't realize what the fear response was in the body. So that was a big lesson. And this woman came over to me and grabbed me by the shoulders and asked me my name. And I said, Jennifer. And she said, Jennifer, the two of us were going to get out of here today. And sure enough, we did. And the long story short is, hours later of running in the soot and ash and covered, I finally had the idea to take Nancy to the dojo that I had been training at. And when we entered there, it was the first time that day that I had a sense of safety. I had this feeling of, starting to calm down, starting to downregulate the nervous system. And that right there became, I think, the turning point of like, this is the place I want to go as often as possible to deepen my mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. I didn't have the words for it back then, but like over time, I started to feel like my body getting stronger, obviously. Then I started to feel more confident. Then I started to feel more self-aware. Then I started to feel more elevated with energy and really worked a lot of the PTSD of that day off onto the mat. I feel like I left it on the mat over years of training. But essentially, so that day was the turning point, and then I was out of a job, so later on I figured out I can become a personal trainer, start training others. So I got into the physicality of it as a career. Then I started to go deeper or into health coaching and nutrition, so starting to go inward. Then over years, I started to go even more inward to mindset work, NLP work, high performance coaching. And I would say about 10 years now, I really just wanted to take this message of helping people feel more strong, safe, and powerful from the streets to the boardroom or from the inside out to a greater audience. So instead of the one-to-one coaching, I started one to many. And that's where the public speaking began.
Wow.
That was a lot.
That's quite the journey. I know I've heard you on various podcasts and talking about this, and just hearing you go through that and how you work through that. You said down regulating the nervous system, and that's a big thing related to stress. And it's interesting that people don't always realize what they're working through, the physicality of physical exercise or the focus of, martial arts and things like that. It really helps to downregulate the nervous system, reduce the stress, cause some relief. You would think, well, I'm stressing out about exercise. Well, actually, you're actually working your nervous system into a more calm and relaxed state. So
Cohesive,
that's,
right? Cohesive
yes,
brain
exactly.
waves, all of it. I'm learning so much more now. So it's only that I'm able to look back and see how powerful the practice was, like 10 years later or 20 years later. It just feels so like, wow, okay, now I understand how it all worked out for me.
Wow. Again, that's just amazing coming from that. And then also wanting to share that with the world, not just keeping it to yourself, but also wanting to expand it out, help other people from the streets to the boardroom,
Yeah.
as you said.
Yeah. Well, interesting because you're, an expert and a speaker on burnout and a coach on burnout.
Mhm.
And what I also realized was, okay, back then, right after 9/11, I was burnt out, but not from
Mhm.
overworking, right? That's how nowadays we just talk about burnout from overwork, but actually I was burnt out from that trauma, and my adrenal glands were like, probably pumping out stress hormones like crazy. It Those
Mhm.
types of events, and not just that day. There people go through loads of things, personal traumas that can affect them for years to come if you're not processing it out. So that's what another kind of aha moment I had recently as well.
And I love how you said that. It's like it wasn't work related. So many people, they automatically default to saying, "Oh, burnout comes from work." It's like, no, burnout can come from relationships, family, from work. Yes, it can come from pushing yourself too hard from a physical perspective.
Mhm.
You hear like runner's high. Some people continue to pursue that and they will burn themselves out on running.
Right.
There's all different aspects of it, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because trying to educate people about that is a challenge, because people almost automatically default to, oh, it's if it's not work, then it's not burnout. Not necessarily. So I
Exactly.
really appreciate you throwing that plug in there from your own experience and really bringing it to the forefront so people can recognize it in their own
Yeah.
lives.
Think about even parents that stay home and don't necessarily have a job, but they're
Mm,
working, and maybe they're taking care of kids with special needs or what, like sick kids. You just never know um, what people are really going through on a day to day basis and how the stress of certain stakes in their lives can really build up over time.
absolutely. Absolutely. So regarding your keynotes and the kind of coaching that you do now, can you expand? Like what do you offer? What do you really
Mm.
give to people when they come to your events? I believe you actually have a retreat coming up soon, right?
Yes, I'm so excited about that.
That's exciting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, it's funny because I wasn't the first to say this. It was actually a guest on my podcast that said the art of badassery is a movement. And I was like, yeah, yeah, it is. It's a movement. I mean, I'm used to calling it a framework. Um, and it is more like a movement. So if you join this movement, you're walking through this framework from white belt to black belt in badassery. Now, this framework has many different iterations of it. So there's the book, right? If you want to join the movement, read the
Mhm.
book. Go through the steps yourself, do some journaling, doing the practices. You will elevate yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. There's a podcast, The Art of Badassery. Listen in. I have loads of guests. So far, just women. That might change, but for now, just women on, women that have overcome things, major challenges, and now share their story as a result of that. One in the with the mission of helping others, right? That to me is a black belt in
Mhm.
badassery. There is the group coaching programs that I launched this year called Burnout to Badass, where we dive into high performance habits like mindset, mindfulness, meditation, movement, nutrition, and sleep, right? Bringing in my health coaching background and the mindset work together. And we help people kind of get into those habits, even just, they don't have to complete all the things that I put out there for them, but even if they really leave after 8 weeks with one or two solid habits, like using affirmations or doing short meditations in the day, that could be life changing.
Mhm.
Besides the group coaching, there is then the retreats, like you mentioned. So I'm doing my very first Art of Badassery retreat in October in my favorite town called Montauk, New York, which is the end of Long Island after the Hamptons. Well, it's technically the Hamptons, but not really the Hamptons. And where we're going to be doing martial arts movement, meditation, mindset discussions, more in like in an informal way, maybe some journaling, and incorporating some, you know, just seeing the town, beach walks. Maybe we'll do moving meditations on the beach, that kind of stuff, because it's just such a beautiful surrounding. So yeah, that's it's a lot, but there's tons of ways. There's something for everybody.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I love it's like a progressive type of deal, right? You have your book, it's the intro level. It's like, hey, learn about the steps of Bash or you get to that Blackbird on your own.
Hmm.
Maybe that's enough for some
Yeah.
people. Maybe they need to go and get into that group program, or maybe they need that real focus time to be like, retreat.
Yes.
This is what I need. Focus, because we get so tied up in our day-to-day lives and we say, oh yeah, that's nice. And we never take the time. It's like how many people have self-help books sitting on their bookshelf. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to read that eventually.
Hmm.
And that's where retreats and group programs can really come in and benefit people and help them establish connections and network and realize that they're not alone.
Hmm.
Sometimes in these phases of burnout or feeling like you might be inadequate or a victim or what are these things, seeing other people in situations and seeing them succeed and grow can be extremely motivating. So I
Yeah.
am super excited for your retreat. I love what you
Well,
do.
thank you.
And this is just wonderful.
Thank you.
And I think this might be a good segue into your
Hmm.
quote. So, folks, usually what we do on here is we try and have somebody who comes on to interview bring up a quote that inspires them and really drives them to be better, to achieve more. And Jen, I think this would be a good time if you want to go over your
Sure
quote.
thing. So this quote is in all of my keynotes in my programming. Like I should have it written out, like on over my desk. But essentially, it's from Lao Tzu, ancient philosopher. Also, I've read that he might be a legend and not even a real person. So who knows? um, but kudos to him, whoever he is. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it eventually becomes your destiny. And to me, that just sums up all of the work that I do, my self work, a lot of the work that I try to help others with, coach others with, because it all starts with their thoughts. And this quote makes the direct connection from your thought to actual your future. Big, that's
Mm.
huge, right? And it's clear
Oh
to
yeah.
see.
Yeah. And what's nice about this quote is it gives a progression, right? It shows, you start, all it takes is a thought. It's a dream. It's a goal that you have. And then you put it into words, whether it's written or whether it's spoken aloud to someone you trust or even to yourself. Those affirmations are very, very powerful, reminding yourself of what you want to do. words become actions. You make that next step. You have those affirmations and those movements, those thoughts turns into words and actions that drive you to move, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to grow and build a business, whether it's to get yourself out of burnout, whatever might be the case, you're taking action. Those actions, when done consistently, habit and character, and then you go from there. It's
It's your
very
destiny.
beautiful.
And so you did it in the positive, which I love. Think about the negative thoughts, right? So let's walk through it that way. When people have
Yes.
negative thoughts over and over again, they eventually become negative words and sentences and phrases that you're using over and over again. And the more you speak negatively, probably the more negative actions you're going to take. The more negative actions, that becomes your personality, right? Your character over
Mm.
time. You're just that negative person that everyone now is like avoiding because they don't want to be around you. They're, you're sucking other people's energy with all your negativity. And then, again, because of be, and I don't even want to focus on this, on the negative part, but over time, you're now doing negative things, you're being around more negative people, you're
Mhm.
attracting more negativity in your life, and that becomes your destiny. It's sad, right? Knowing that we could just turn
It
it
is.
around starting in our thoughts.
Mhm. So yeah, that is also a perfect example of you can you don't have to live that way. If you go and establish a habit, habits can be changed, habits can be broken,
Mm-hmm.
and you can change your destiny. You just work your way
Mm-hmm.
backwards, work your way to your character. What does it mean? Work your way to your habits. What habits do you want to go change? Work your way backwards through the quote, then go forward in the
Right.
quote.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Yes. Very beautiful. And I think for our viewers or listeners, viewers, however you're consuming this podcast today, it really goes back to careful what you think. It is important. And then when you go and continue to move forward with your thoughts, they become your words, your habits, your actions, and your destiny. And what you can do with this quote is start considering what are the thoughts you're saying to yourself?
Yes.
What actions represent those thoughts? What habits have you established because of those thoughts? And is that the destiny you want?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so, how do you observe your thoughts? You have to be super self aware of them, right? And not let
Mhm.
them go past. Like, we're all always going to have negative thoughts that creep in. How much do
Mhm.
we allow? How much of those do we allow before we stop them? Before we say
Mhm.
enough, I'll take over now. And either we put it in an affirmation or, get outside and go for a walk and take in the nature and that's what I do sometimes. I just like stare at these beautiful trees or flowers and I'm like, I get into gratitude. I get into the present moment.
Mhm.
Because when you're really present, when you're not worrying about the future or lamenting about the past, right? In that present moment, now, all you can be is grateful for what we have, right? And where we're at in life. So those are my simple ways to like ground me again and get out of that negative spiral.
And that's very useful. It is being in the present moment. Do not consider the past. This is where meditation, breathing focus, it helps you come like you don't have to meditate. Some people have a mental block around meditation. Breathe. Just sit there and breathe and focus on how you feel in the moment.
Hmm.
Don't have to quote unquote meditate,
Yeah.
but meditation is a good way. Focus on the breathing. And even sometimes going and moving your body when you go and work on exercise that's extremely focused, you block out that future and that past. There are different ways to do that, but it does go back to you have control over your thoughts. Yep, we all have those negative thoughts, but you have control over how much positive thoughts you can bring up. And I love how you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my constant work. I'm always working on it.
And that's actually a good point. It goes to like you've been growing and doing this for 20 years, right? You've been doing this over and over and over. The journey continues.
Hmm.
It keeps going and we
Yeah.
can continue to improve. If somebody's comfortable where they're at, great.
Mhm.
But there's always room to grow and improve. And that's what I love about life,
Yeah.
right? We can always get better. We
Yeah.
can always do more. And it's up to us because of our thoughts, our words,
Mhm.
our actions, our habits, our character. We get to
Yeah.
choose our destiny.
Yes. 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 Yes.
It's beautiful. Well, Jen, this has been a wonderful interview today. I've learned so much about you and like what drives you. And this quote is amazing. You mentioned putting it up somewhere. I'm thinking to do the
Yeah.
same. It's very strong. And it's that journey of becoming who we want to
Mm.
be that I think is wonderful.
Amazing.
For those of you listening today, I'm going to have all of Jen's social, her website, her Instagram, all the other things on the description in below, either on Spotify or YouTube, however you're consuming it. Please go reach out, check her out. Got a lot of good stuff. If you're interested in talking to her or doing something with her, don't hesitate to reach out. I know she's got her stuff in October that she's going for her retreat, but she also has many other offerings, as she mentioned before. And if you haven't got it, go check out the Art of Badassery and go start your journey to your black belt.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Yeah,
And thank you, everyone, for listening.
absolutely. So remember, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character because it can become your destiny. Choose the destiny that you want and have a wonderful day.